Welcome to this video series, 5 Myths Busted. These are the myths I wish I had understood when I first started writing my first novel. And this year in particular, having worked with hundreds of students over the course of 2020, in everything from really large group programs like Write Free to smaller groups to working one-to-one. I see the same roadblocks coming up over and over again, particularly when people want to write novels. So we're going to be tackling one myth a day throughout this series, and I hope it will leave you feeling ready and more confident to step forward and start working on that novel that has been asking you to leap in, possibly for years. Let's get started with our first myth on day number 1. Our myth today is, I need the perfect plan to write this book. So I call this the right way, wrong way fallacy, and we will see this type of theme coming back again throughout the series. We are trained in our education system to get it right. We want to get the good grade, we want to do it right, we want to have the plan, and we want to get it right from the beginning. So as such, we think we need to know every single thing that's going to happen in our story before we even start writing. We want to know every point in the plot. We want to know all the characters' choices, their names, their character traits. We want to know every single little plot point that happens and be certain that every single choice we've made so far is the best possible choice before we've even begun. Often, we will look to existing books that we admire or have enjoyed as validation when we try out our own scenes. So we will write our own scene and say, wait a minute, my scene doesn't read like the one in this book I love. I must be doing something wrong. I must not have planned this right. I must not have had all the skills I needed in order to get this done. Maybe I'm not capable of doing this. Many writers, to debunk this myth, actually know very little when they begin writing. They have a point to leap off on. They have a concept, they have a character, and they have a situation and probably some sort of obstacle that character is facing. However, they may not know much more than that. Some writers I know, like Diana Gabaldon, who wrote Outlander and discussed this in the podcast, has only a single solitary scene that she's aware of when she starts writing a book, and that's all she knows. And she writes that scene and moves off from there. Other writers may have a general sense of a beginning, a middle, and an ending, but that may change. Or if they use a method like the plot embryo or other structure techniques, they may have done a plot embryo for a character or two and have a general idea of the emotional trajectory that the character is going to go through. But they may not know every single scene that's going to happen or the best way to communicate that plot arc. Because when you sit down to draft a book, everything changes. In revision, once you have the draft written, you're shaping the clay. You're forming it into the ultimate book that you want it to be. But when you're first drafting your book, you're taking this idea that exists in the ether and you're taking it from nothing into something. And that is like inventing the clay out of thin air. This is hard work. And it is helpful with a plan. But even when you have a plan, it's still messy. It's going to be a messy process. There's going to be parts that are missing. Things are not going to look quite like they look at the end of the stage with the book. And just like those books you've been comparing your scenes to, what they had at the end of the journey is the result of many, many, many steps along the way. It may read as an inevitable choice or the best choice or the right choice when you pick the book up off the shelf, but they didn't necessarily know all of those things at the beginning. So not knowing the entire route from start to finish doesn't mean you're not ready to write. One of the most important things that you can learn as a writer is to be able to sit with the unknown, the discomfort of not knowing exactly what's going to happen every step along the way. And if you can sit with that and not run away from it, then that's one of the most essential skills that writers learn. And it's the one that my students most often report having shifts with in their lives as well as their writing. So trusting your ability to be able to answer the question, to figure out that plot hole that you can't quite sort out as you go through the draft is such an essential thing, and it will serve you far better than an intricately plotted plan that answers every single question that you think could possibly come up in advance. If you try to make this kind of plan, a spoiler alert is that the critic never thinks that plan is quite good enough. It could take you years of planning and trying to come up with the perfect plan before you feel you're allowed to start your book. There are so many things you can figure out along the way, and we'll be talking about one of those in tomorrow's video. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow.